Better Together podcast.
Welcome to the Better Together podcast from the Fuquay Arena Chamber of Commerce. We're recording today from the Dashmore Conference Room and Studio, sponsored by Rescued Wood Rehab. The Better Together podcast highlights local businesses each week as the Fuquay Arena Chamber of Commerce continues to promote an amazing business community. I'm Brad Marshall from Greater Culture CrossFit here in Fuquay Arena, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Marty Woodward from Rescued Wood Rehab. Marty, how are you doing today?
Brad, I'm great. I'm really great. It's a great day.
It is a great day.
Always a great day at the Chamber of Commerce.
I would agree with that.
It is. And we've got fantastic folks working here with Dustin and Christy, and I'm excited. We have
fantastic guests today.
Fantastic guests today. That's what I was going to say.
Well, now. Fantastic is a little. Yeah. Don't oversell me now.
Right. We are joined by Andre Anthony, the CEO of NeighborUp. And welcome to the Fuquay Arena Chamber of Commerce and the Better Together podcast. So
thanks for having me.
Yeah, we really appreciate you being here. So tell us about NeighborUp.
Yeah. So NeighborUp is an organization. It's a new name. It's a rebrand after DORCAS Ministries, which was founded in 1968, primarily serving in Cary and Mooresville, merged recently with the Western Way Crisis Ministry, founded in 1983, serving Apex, Holly Springs, Fuquay, Willow Spring, New Hill. So our two organizations came together officially in January of 2025. And as we worked through this, through this merger, we saw an opportunity to create a new brand. When you bring two storied organizations together with very, very similar missions and founding histories, it just made sense. And we felt called to take the opportunity to just rebrand and capitalize on the momentum of the merger.
And so how long have you been with NeighborUp, and really what inspired you to get involved?
I've been a nonprofit guy all my life. I joined DORCAS Ministries, the previous DORCAS Ministries, back in October of 22. That was my first day following the passing of our beloved executive director at the time, Howard Manning. And so I joined that organization, but I've been a nonprofit all my life, spent about 18 years working for the YMCA in the Twin Cities and South Carolina, Illinois, and upstate or central New York. And then when we moved down to North Carolina, I left the Y and joined a different nonprofit. Still stayed involved with the Y as a board member and advisory board and finance committee and things like that. And then when the opportunity came calling, it felt like the right thing.
So you've been working for nonprofits for many years now, and so in those experiences, what are some unique challenges that are faced by nonprofits out there?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing, and this is a soapbox that I need to get off of at some point, but I won't, is the term nonprofit.
Okay.
Right. And it's a widely used term, but if we think about it, we labeled a whole industry for something that they don't do that they actually do. I don't have a job if we don't make some kind of a profit, right? Now, what we do with said profit, aka reinvested in the organization or reinvested in the community, that's what and we're tax exempt. That's what differentiates us. But we're running a business that happens to be a nonprofit, that happens to be tax exempt, and that happens to be very, very focused on the missional aspect of what we do. So, for me, I've been, using more of the term of social impact organizations and really telling the story of what we do versus, labeling us what we don't do, which we actually can do and do. But, really pointing out the fact that our job, we exist for social impact, and kind of changing that narrative, because we end up, and that's why I'm appreciative that we're on this, having this conversation today, because I know this is primarily geared for what people traditionally call business. Well, we're an organization, we're business as well, and we are part of the business community. And a lot of times people don't see nonprofits as part of the business community. We employ 80 people. We are a source for 1,300 active volunteers who, you know, a lot of these people volunteer like they get paid, right?
Right.
So just we're part of the fabric of a community. So I appreciate the question. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to talk more about it.
Yeah, and you obviously have a very a passion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt
Oh
in
yeah.
my mind. And so what, kind of going back, what
Yeah.
inspired you to sort of take this career path
Yeah.
in working with nonprofits?
So right around the age of 14, I found myself on my own. So I've been on my own since I was about 14 years old, and people at the YMCA back in the Twin Cities where I grew up really took me under their shoulders, or under their wings, under their wings, and I learned a lot about, you know, at that point in life, you spend a lot of time kind of seeing the things that you don't want to do or don't want to be. And then when you finally see things or see things that you want to do, people that you want to be like, and they all happen to be at the Y, right? So these were staff members all the way up to our executive director at the Y at the time, who actually saw something in me and said, "Hey, you're somebody that I want to invest in." He paid for me to get my driver's permit because he's like, don't be an idiot out here driving without a license, right? Because once you go down that road, that takes you down a path that you don't want to be. Let's go about it. Let's go about it the right way. I know you have to fend for yourself, but there are people who are here to walk alongside you to. So that started quietly. I still didn't know it, right? But that started my understanding of what because growing up, I thought the Y was just a place where I played basketball and went swimming. And, after a while, you learn, and using the Y as kind of an example of just many of these organizations that most of the time people don't know what we do. And then the more I learned about the community development aspect of what these organizations do, I was like, okay, this is this is starting to feel like a calling. And then one opportunity led to another, and multiple opportunities across the country, and it was me answering a calling, is what it felt like.
And within these businesses or the nonprofit world, if you will, which is run as a business, like you say, there are career growth opportunities.
Oh,
to do
absolutely.
that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yes.
what's your career path look like?
Yeah.
Coming from a kid who's
Yeah.
been exposed to it. Now
Yep.
you're a CEO.
So it's been a fun journey, but I think my first job was running youth sports, and that led to being a camp counselor. That led to participating in teen programs, and then eventually leading teen programs. And then, along the way, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about running a business. You're responsible for your own budget. When you get to a certain level, you basically become a mini CEO of your own small local community. You're building a board. You're learning how to you're or honing your skills on budgeting. You're honing your skills on how do we take care of people, how do we recruit volunteers, how do we train and retain staff, and all of those things, right? How do we show up in the community? And over time, so I think I won't be able to remember all of it, but youth sports instructor, camp counselor, program coordinator, program director, branch director, um, community outreach director, back when we used that term. Eventually, I believe running multiple branches. And then when I followed my CEO in Illinois to Central New York, chief of staff, and then, vice president of, I don't know, membership programs and social responsibility. I was responsible for strategic planning. So just a lot of different things that you learn. And the other thing that organizations like the Y do a really good job of, and we've, and so when I think of whether it's the Y, whether it's NeighborUp, it's the intentionality with which you invest in people's leadership development. The goal is never to keep somebody for 30 years, right? If that happens, great. The goal is by the time I'm done and we really buy into this at NeighborUp, by the time this person is done working here and they move on to their next opportunity, or they, go for their masters and it takes them to San Francisco, do they look back on their time with us and say, you know what, I'm a better person, I'm a better professional because that organization invested in me. So leader, investing in the development of leaders, regardless of where they are, is a super important thing that it's easy to take for granted.
Yeah, I love hearing the different experiences and how it took you all different places of the country, learning so many different pieces. You mentioned that you love telling the story of NeighborUp and the impact that you make. So share with folks a little bit about that story of NeighborUp and what are some of the services that you all offer and how you're making that difference socially in the community.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, NeighborUp, merger of an organization that's been around since 1968 and an organization that's been around since 1983. Both organizations were founded actually very, very similarly, both born out of the church, and let me make sure I'm clear about that, out of a coming together of different types of churches, whether it be black and white churches, whether it be, Baptist and Methodist. You have churches who came together and said, we need to invest in an organization that can, in a sense, be our benevolence arm, be the part of it's an investment in our community to make sure that those who can't afford, whether it be basic essentials all the way to what we do today around workforce development. Let's make sure that we're investing in professionals who can help make that happen. The way I say it sometimes is the church focuses on discipleship, and our job is to focus on the benevolence and helping people get to where they want to be for themselves and their families. So NeighborUp as an organization, our primary focus is on, you think of, so I'll use an example of, a single mom who, one of her kids gets sick for a week, right? That is a story. So mom misses work for a week, right? And she's an hourly employee, so she's not going to be collecting a paycheck for that week. That is the beginning of a story that ends in, 30, 60, 90 days from now. You're living in your car with your kids just because you fell short on rent for that month. Well, our job is to come in, work with you, help you pay that rent, right? So there's a prevention, and then there's a proactive component to this where now we're working with you to figure out how can we help you, how can we walk alongside you to make sure that the next time something like this happens, you don't need an organization like us, right? And so we do everything from case management so we do the emergency assistance, right? Let's put out that fire. And then you're working with the case manager. We refer to them as community support specialists, who walks like right alongside you. What else can we help you with? How do we help you get ahead, right? Not just maintain, but get ahead. Could it be that you need help with transportation? Could it be that you need help with childcare? Could it be that you need to be referred to a different resource, whether it be on the county level, whether it be with another organization? Are there, sometimes we're working with people who there's some, mental health or physical health challenges that we help, that we partner. We have so many different partners that we work with. And then ultimately, sometimes in that situation, it means that you don't make enough money to live in this community, and that's where our workforce development program really comes in to play. Our job is to help you get a higher paying job to make sure that you can afford to live in this community, and it's that simple. And so we're doing everything from career coaching all the way up to helping people go back to school, uh, to finish to do a certificate, finish a degree, whatever it is. But again, our focus is on walking alongside you to figure out how we get you to a place where you don't ever need an organization like us again.
Yeah.
Right? And if you do need us, right, you have a relationship, where where to go, and who can help you get ahead. So that's the crux of the mission of the organization. Most people know us because we run what I consider well, a lot of people say it's the best, but I also call it jokingly the bougiest thrift store you'll ever see. And that's the Dorcas thrift shop that's located just outside of downtown Cary. That that is a part of our mission, in that it allows us to provide high quality goods to our community for affordable prices, and it also happens to be a significant source of revenue for us, to allow us to do the work and have a diversified revenue stream between retail and philanthropy. And then we also own a 55,000 square foot plaza in Cary. We occupy the majority of it, and then we lease space
Hmm.
to other organizations. So rental income is also a part of our revenue mix there, but it allows us to be a sustainable organization that is, again, that's been around since 1968, to continue to serve this community and help meet the need. As whenever you see this much growth, whenever you see this much, there's a lot of affluence, right? In this area, it also comes with a gigantic wealth gap, and
Hmm.
people being left behind, and those are the people that we strive to serve.
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
really fascinating to see behind the scenes of, like you said, being a business. You
Yep.
want to do amazing things for the community. You have to generate some revenue in
Yep.
order to do that and make things sustainable
Yep.
and employ people who can go out there and then develop and
Yes.
support and help encourage folks along the way. So it's really cool to hear how you're making that impact. And you've been around nonprofits for a long time now, and now stepping into this role as CEO of NeighborUp. What do you feel like makes your organization kind of unique,
Hmm.
or what makes you something special
Yeah.
within the community?
That's a really good question, and that's something that we spend some time trying to, you spend a lot of time trying to figure out what that is. And it's not to compare yourself to anybody else, but it's really, hey, why would somebody choose to support us?
Mhm.
And it's really about when you look at what we do and how we do it in its totality, right? So it's not just, we're not doing one thing. It's the wraparound nature of the work that we do, not just putting out the fire for today, but also doing what we can to help you have a better tomorrow. And then, and it's not just about what we do, right? It's also who we partner with, that there's somebody out there that does something better than we do. Well, there's no point in me trying to replicate that. My job is to help you get to that person. And sometimes it might mean that I have to, pay for you to be able to take advantage of that service, but that is still an investment in you and in your family. So I think what makes us stand out is the uniqueness in the uniqueness of the complexity and the full-fledged wraparound nature of the work that we do, and in the way that we do the work.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love it.
So, you've been doing this for some time. So, are there some lessons that you've learned,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Plenty
in
of
your career? I mean,
Absolutely.
what can you share? Someone who wants to jump in and, hey, I want to be a part of any organization,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Are there some lessons that you've learned? And
Yeah. I always come back to it. There's a saying that I don't know who I learned it from, but you have to earn the right to speak into people's lives. And and it's that whole thing about authority versus influence, and the recognition that my job title and the authority that comes with that does not mean as much to anybody else as it mean right? Like, so the truth of the matter is that, it again, going back to that concept of investing in people, but just the way my success as a leader, and we've had a lot of successes in my time, only happens because of the people that we employ, the people that volunteer with us, the people that decide to donate, whether it's time or money, to our organization. all of those things, I think of the volunteers, I think of our board members, I think of the people who decide to serve on our committees and help us on, the task forces that we stand up to be able to tackle a project. All of those people are the reason why we do what we do. So people, I think has been the biggest learning. I remember being with an organization that I shall not name, and I remember, that this always comes to me. I was at a branch, or as a yeah, and there were two leaders who were coming to visit, right? And I remember my boss telling me, everybody needs to stay after we close. So not just the janitors who clean, right? But like everybody needs to stay after to clean, because these are the two people who can fire you on the spot. And it created this sense of fear for like senior leadership and, chief executives, um, in the organization. And I made a mental note of that, right? Not knowing why. But then when I find myself in that same position and going, I don't want any, no, so it really framed the way I lead, because, and life is really about learning lessons, both the things that you want to do and replicate and the things that you never want to replicate, right? And I just remember going like, who am I for somebody to fear me? Respect me because I've earned it, right? But so anyway, this concept of people first, this concept of, really um earning the right to speak into people's lives, because that's what we do as leaders. We speak into people's lives. We have to earn their trust. They trust us. It's not just a place where they come to collect a paycheck. It's not just a place where they come to hang out with their friends as volunteers. You got to earn that, and you got to keep earning that.
I love how you talk about that personal power,
Yeah.
or that personal influence power, versus your position power, because you can
Yes.
be in whatever position and
Correct.
still influence people.
Exactly.
And that's a huge
Yeah.
huge lesson to learn for
Absolutely.
all leaders. And so, as you're thinking about, offering advice to somebody, you're bringing someone up in your organization or even outside your organization,
hmm
what advice would you offer that next leader? Like, hey, this is the step you should take.
Yeah. Okay. So specifically, like, here's a step that you should take: never turn down opportunities to learn and grow. A lot of doors opened for me because I said yes to an opportunity that had nothing to do with my normal day-to-day job, right? And that was one of the biggest lessons for me. I specifically remember the day I got noticed by a senior leader in a very large organization, was because I said yes to attending a meeting to attending or being a part of something that I had said no to 17 times before that, right? And I show up and I say the one thing that nobody else apparently had ever said, and it made somebody notice me. It gave me an opportunity to do some work on an international level, right? All from saying yes to showing up to this one conversation. Whether it's taking advantage of leadership development opportunities, or taking advantage of opportunities to go sit and learn from somebody. There's something there's something to be said about never no, let me rephrase that, because not all opportunities are good opportunities. So let me rephrase that. Say yes to the things that you should say yes to, right? And take advantage of those opportunities, especially when you work in an organization or in a company or in a business that very happily invests in your growth. They've done their job. Your job is to take advantage of it, right? And I always say this: good things happen when we show up.
So yeah, it's just tremendous. Any future goals, and you can certainly mention any future goals you have for yourself,
Yeah.
but any future goals for Neighbor Up as you continue to move forward?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, continuing to make sure that, everybody that needs us knows that we're here. Make sure that we continue to be accessible for the people who need our services. Make sure that we continue to do a good job in showcasing, not in a gloating way, but in a proud, in a appropriately proud way of the work that we do. and the way, if you're a donor, if you're a volunteer, you want to know the good that is happening as a result of your investment and your resources. So continuing to to do a good job and be better at showcasing the success stories, the work that is happening. And then we just completed a merger. You never really finish a merger, right?
That goes on.
But we just went through a merger, right? That creates a new normal for an organization, and making sure that we're living into that, and building a strong foundation for whatever that next um, growth phase is.
Yeah,
So,
exciting times
yeah,
ahead, especially with the merger and now looking
absolutely.
ahead. A lot of positivity there. One of the things we love from hearing from our guests are just things that they enjoy from local establishments, whether it's local businesses, local partners, people that
hmm
you love supporting in the Fuquay community here. So, anything stand out for you of some of those spots or places you love to frequent
Yeah.
as a member down here?
So the funny thing is, as soon as we're done here, right around the corner, Pooch Pad
Mm-hmm.
is where my wife likes to take our dog
Yep.
for doggy daycare. I kid you not, I never thought I would ever say those words,
Yeah.
that I have a dog, one, because I didn't grow up having pets, and two, my dog goes to doggy daycare
Yep.
because my wife works from home. So she insists on the dog going to doggy daycare Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it is Tuesday when we're recording this. As soon as we're done here, I'm like right around the corner. And they're great, and I don't get paid by Pooch Pad to sing their praises, but they're really awesome with, taking care of what I have come to accept.
Mm-hmm.
People's dogs are like their kids.
Yeah, fur babies.
Right?
Fur
And it
babies.
took me, I fought it, y'all. I
Yeah.
fought it. It
Yeah.
took me a while to accept it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we love there. I mean, we frequent a lot of we love food,
Mhm,
right? So a
mhm.
lot of the restaurants, Garibaldi's and others. But yeah, Pooch Pad is a place. There's
Yeah,
one
great
place that
spot
I
over
know
there.
that I go to a lot
Yes, yeah,
as
fantastic place
as
over
a
there.
transporter.
Yes, does a
Yeah.
great job taking care of pets, which are very, very meaningful for
Yes.
people.
Yep.
We also love hearing from folks. When you start to think about the best advice that you've ever received,
Yeah.
what comes to mind for you as like the best piece of business advice or career advice you've received?
I remember the first time I stepped in. I don't know why this is the one that I'm thinking of, but it's the one that came to mind. So outside of this is people focused, but outside of my people first, that was really good advice. You're never going to be successful without surrounding yourself with good people. And that plays very well into the example that I'm thinking of. The first time I got a senior level executive director role, I remember the best piece of advice was like, "Hey, okay, in that role, you are going to be responsible for fundraising. Do not try to do it by yourself. If you don't have a good board, you're not going to be successful fundraising." And there's something about like, "Oh, wait a minute. I got this goal, but you're telling me that like before you chase that goal, take a step back and build a team?" Huh. Okay. And it was such a, hindsight, it's like, duh. Like that was such a very simple advice, but there's a level of pressure, and there's this thing that we all do when we get an opportunity, and maybe some of it is imposter syndrome, right? But when you get an opportunity to step into a role and lead, you're thinking, okay, I got to prove that they made the right decision. So then you just hit the ground and you go, and you forget to build the foundation that will help you, um, that will help you be successful. And that was, that's kind of how I took it, as like, no matter what you do, you always have to have a solid foundation, right? Before you go ahead and buy land and build a house
Yeah.
without a solid foundation, and tell me what happens to that house, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It reminds me, I love that idea of that if you want to go fast,
Yep.
go alone. If you
Yep.
want to go far,
Yep.
surround yourself with other people. Go
Absolutely.
together. So I love that.
Yep.
Last one on the quick hitters here. So or when you think about your business, any either surprising facts or things that people maybe don't know about
Yeah.
NeighborUp?
You know, I think about the fact that, just by the numbers, right? And we ended 2025 having served a little over 11,000 different people. And that's not a duplicated number. That's 11,000, I think 11,356 individuals. And then between the financial assistance, workforce development programs, and food assistance that we provided, it was about $5.7 million in 1 year, right? And when I tell people those numbers, they go, what? Where? Because most people don't realize the hidden need that exists in the communities that they live in, right? And so that's one thing that I always want to highlight and point out is, there's a lot of need in our communities, and just keep an eye out. Keep your eyes open and support the organizations, whether it be NeighborUp or another organization that's near and dear to your heart. Find an organization and support the work that they do, because that's how you support your neighbors, right? That's how and that's for anybody who believes, if you're a believer, there's a number one thing that we're called to do, outside of loving God, is loving our neighbors. And that's how you do it, by supporting the people who do that work.
That's tremendous. So where can our listeners find NeighborUp
Yep.
and get involved?
Yeah, NeighborUp.org. That's our website, spelled exactly how it sounds, NeighborUp.org. You can find all the information that you need about who we are, what we do, ways to get involved. It's a pretty good website that it's self-explanatory. You'll see, different ways to get involved and get in contact with us.
So, Andre, we really appreciate you being here
Absolutely.
on the podcast. And so, what's the best part about being involved with like a chamber of commerce?
Oh yeah.
How do you find that beneficial to your organization and then maybe personally?
Yeah, there's nothing like having, and chambers of commerce do a wonderful service that they never get full credit for, right? So just outside of economic development and bringing business to a community, and the different things that many of the chambers in the area do, specifically bringing people together, right? In our day-to-day lives, we're all busy. We're all doing our own thing, and it's very easy for you to get homed in and locked in on the work that you're doing, or the work that your organization is doing. But having an opportunity, having a place that brings us all together, I absolutely love the name of y'all's podcast, because it's very fitting. We actually use the term "better together" as we walk through this merger, because that was, but we are truly better together, right? Like, take a moment, and I've met Marty once.
Mm-hmm.
Brad, I've
Mhm.
never met you.
Mm-hmm.
And just walking out of this conversation today, I guarantee that we'll all stay in contact,
Mhm.
right? And there might be an opportunity to do some work together in the future. So both personally and professionally, chambers, like I said, chambers do a service that they don't ever get full credit for. But the most important thing that I believe that a chamber does is bringing people together and giving us the opportunity to learn from each other and grow with each other.
And so we are literally going to pull that clip and use that for advertising. But that was tremendous. There's no way any of us can say that any better. Andre Anthony, CEO of NeighborUp, thank you so much for being a guest on the Better Together podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for the opportunity.
And thank you to our listeners out there. Join us each week on the Better Together podcast from the Fuquay Varina Chamber of Commerce as we continue to highlight great local businesses and organizations. From the Dashmore Conference Room and Studio, sponsored by Rescued Wood Rehab, I'm Brad.
I am Marty.
And we are Better Together.
We're better together. It's a weekly podcast. We're better together. You should know that there's more in the dash. We're better together. Fuquay Varina Chamber of Commerce. We're better together podcast.